Welcome everyone. You guys, I have been waiting for this interview. I've been super excited about that. We always are trying to get great content out to you guys. But number one, this is someone that I've known for a while, and we've been kind of getting to know each other a little bit. We've had conversation before about possibly working together, me using her services. And I'm telling you, she's amazing. Her name is Marley Jaxx. Let me introduce you to Marley. And then we're going to ask you more about yourself too. Hopefully get you to brag a little bit, because people have a hard time sometimes bragging about themselves, but we want to hear more about this. Let me tell you what I know about Marley. You guys, she has dialed in to her company's messaging to doubling down on video. It's honestly, it's no wonder that it knows what she knows. She knows so much, and she has allowed herself to focus and become one of the top video branding leaders of our time. And you guys, she's young. She works with clients who are in way older generations than her. She is teaching the younger generation that, look, you can be crazy successful. It doesn't matter how old you are. As the CEO of her own video company that is growing rapidly. It's a marketing agency known as Jaxx Productions, Jaxx. Yeah. Okay. So she started off with a really cool name. That's cool. But awesome name. Marley never stops delivering really high quality services to her clients and inspiring really authentic content and information to come out from her audience. She teaches people how to add value, and she teaches them how to do it quickly. And you guys, we're rule breakers, and we know that we want to make sure that we are skipping any steps. We use step skipping strategies. Marley is one who does this. She's done it with her business. She is doing it with her clients, and she is going fast. And let me tell you some of the type of people that Marley is working with. She has legendary people who have worked with her: Cristy Code Red, Alex Charfen, Daymond John, Rachel Pedersen, Stephen Larsen. You guys, she's even worked at events alongside people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, Randy Zuckerberg, Robin Sharma. You guys, she's the real deal. And in addition, she had this amazing, monumental solo presentation at Funnel Hacking Live 2020. It was phenomenal. I was actually there, did a fabulous job. People could not write fast enough. She was bombarded with people at the end. Now, the truth is, it doesn't matter what niche you have, what location you are in your business, what location you are geographically. Marley Jaxx and her team, they are experts at aiding the visionary entrepreneurs into achieving their maximum impact. And she is getting people at 6, 7 figures. She's helping them with their profits through the power of video that is omnipresent. You are in all the right places, all the right ways, and teaches you how to do it with your limited time. So I'll tell you what, this is from what I've seen. This is what I see that you are dedicated to, Marley. You are dedicated to waging war against short-term influencers who are trying to act like this is the way to do it when it's not really what's going to get people long-term results. You are creating an army of leaders who are visionary, who are refusing mediocre, mundane, average video strategy. This is why I've been so excited to have Marley, because you are a rule breaker. That is what you've done. Your podcast is the VIP Code, and I'll let you tell them what that means, because it's super, super awesome. It's where she takes she takes so many people behind the scenes of her video marketing strategy, and she gives you the tips that you need to succeed. She tells you exactly what she's doing. And Marley was also the chief entertainment officer for John Cameron Entertainment. She's also held positions like social media manager, communications manager at several companies. Okay, Marley is the real deal. Marley, welcome. Woo! Now I promise we're still going to have time for Marley to get to say something.
Oh my gosh, what an intro. Thank you.
Yeah, you really are amazing. And what you're doing for people, I love. So tell me, first of all, tell us about what made you go down this path, because this is very niche.
Oh my gosh. You know what's so crazy about it is that you'd never guess what I was doing before this. Before I became an entrepreneur, I was a dental hygienist. What a weird transition. Like, yeah, I was cleaning teeth one day and then like making videos on YouTube and turning people legs on YouTube. Such a random little switch. Before I was a dental hygienist, I worked in radio and television and entertainment. And then I kind of got my heart broken in that industry. It's a very unstable, there's some egos in the industry. And so I went back to my first, what I got an education in, which was dental hygiene, which I always had as like a backup plan while I figured out what I really wanted to be when I grew up. And so cleaning teeth all day, not very exciting, as you can imagine. You can only clean teeth so many ways. I'm a very creative person. So between patients, because I was bored, I would start to do their social media just for the dental office. And I started getting some really good results. All I was doing was just telling the stories of like the other hygienists or the people that work there, or like our office goldfish. And it got some good traction, got people coming in. And then their IT guy was like, hey, would you mind doing social media for my other client? And I was like, sure, what the heck? He referred me to all of his clients. And then all of a sudden I had
my goodness.
I was like, I didn't even know you can make money doing this. I'm just like, telling people's stories. What do I charge for this? And the funny thing is, I had no idea what social media managers charged. So my first client, I'm like, I don't know, like $2,000 a month. They're like, okay. And then I go into this Facebook group with other social media managers and I'm like, what do you guys charge? And some of them had like some limiting money mindset. So some people were like, I don't know, like $300 a month. And I was like, oh, I better like,
my goodness,
I can't believe they said yes to this. So I'm like, I got to figure out how to really over deliver and give them really good value. And so at this time I was making videos for myself, just answering frequently asked questions. Like, how do I put text on an image, or how do I, whatever, this on Instagram? And so I was like, well, I'm making videos for myself. Maybe I can make videos for my clients. Well, some of those videos started to really blow up on YouTube and got them a ton of clients while I was getting clients and inquiries from my YouTube videos. So I was like, how did I do that? And so I started to study more, because I'm like, again, these clients are paying me good money and I didn't know what was, average. And so I started to learn more about YouTube, understanding that it's a search engine, not a social media platform. So like videos that you make years ago are still real estate on the internet, attention that you own, not rent, as in like, we have to pay into Facebook ads all the time, pay to play. Like when you know how to make video content, it can become an evergreen lead generation machine for you. So I went from dental hygienist to social media manager to video marketing agency. And then, like you said, I've been working with some really incredible influencers, entrepreneurs, some celebrities in their niche, and helping them to get to 6, even 7 figures on YouTube.
So, okay. So tell me, first of all, what is the thing that's the most fun for you?
I think every client is so fascinating. Like, I feel like I get one-on-one TED Talks from all of my clients because I get to learn their niche. Like last week, I was with a client at our studio in Salt Lake City, and he is, what's the technical word for this? He's a lawyer for surrogate pregnancies, so assisted reproduction attorney. And he's worked with like celebrities like Kim and Kanye, and the stories that I'm hearing, not just about the celebrity, of course, the celebrity stories are fascinating, especially when there's like paparazzi involved and they're trying to keep things under wraps. But then just the stories of like these families that are, hopeful parents trying to realize their dream of growing their family. So I get to see the behind the scenes of that, or I have clients in weight loss or in business or in network marketing and all sorts of niches that I'm getting like backstage, behind the scenes, really fun stories. And then all of that I learned from their niches, I just get to learn for me and then be able to teach other students. And so
I love it. Well, and it's interesting because I think that's one of the most fun things about working with clients is that you get to know the pieces of them that isn't necessarily what they hired you for, but you get involved in a lot of different pieces and you get to know their dreams, their desires, their pains, what they're going through. And I want you guys who are listening, I want you to notice something really powerful that you might have missed that she just said just a little bit ago when she was talking about how she said, $2,000. Okay, I'm going to charge $2,000. And they said yes. When she found out that wasn't necessarily like a lot of people had, I won't say it wasn't normal because as you know, obviously you're worth that and worth more. And now of course you're charging more, but the people who she talked to who had the limiting beliefs, when they said $300, I want you to notice what her reaction was. Your reaction, Marley, was not, oh, wow, well, then I did a great job.
Oopsie.
Her reaction was immediately, oh my goodness, if I'm charging that much, then I better over deliver.
Yeah.
And that is the difference between someone who creates the kind of success and value that Marley has created and people who don't. Now, we're rule breakers. And we're all about breaking old rules, breaking old records. And we do not believe that we have to do things the same way that everyone has done them forever. And in fact, when we do that, we don't make things better for the world, for our clients. We don't change lives in the same way and at the same speed. So I know you are a rule breaker. I want to know what rules you feel like you have broken the way everybody else said it has to be done. What are the rules you've broken to get where you are? Hello, charging $2,000 right off. That was already.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind, I mean, there's a few things that come to mind. Definitely charging prices that are expensively affordable, that they take it seriously, that your clients are investing in themselves, they're investing in you emotionally. They've got some skin in the game. I'm not like racing to the bottom for the most economical prices, because the results that you're going to get from me are going to be well worth it. We're not like the Walmart of the marketing industry.
Right.
The other thing that came to mind is, you know, there's when we're talking about creating content, there's a lot of content marketers out there that will teach you different storytelling techniques or how-to techniques or how to do things. And you might also be familiar with Brene Brown. She talks about vulnerability and talks about sharing the scars and not the open wounds.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, sometimes I like to tiptoe around those open wounds. And there's a big difference between hot mess and powerful message, but a really powerful message can be when you're willing to step out and share the things that people are afraid to say, but everyone's feeling. When you and I met, I was freshly going through a divorce. And I remember when we met, I was like kind of out of it, because it was the first time that I'd been in public after publicly announcing this. And I was getting a lot of mixed attention. Of course, the like,
yeah.
I'm so sorry, and how are you? And you know, some people like, congratulations, good job. Weird.
Right. Yeah.
But what was so interesting about that time is I was like, I don't know if I can share this. People are going to look at me and think like, why should I listen to her when she doesn't have her life figured out yet? But what I realized is helping people doesn't stop just because your life isn't perfect. And because I could share this, and it's not to make it a story about divorce or failure. Like, I didn't want to be the divorce girl, but I wanted this to be a story of perseverance. At this time, I was going through the biggest transition of my life while preparing to speak on the biggest stage, the most pivotal moment of my career.
Yeah.
And instead of hiding in that, I documented it and I shared it. And I still have people to this day that it's not necessarily about relationships or divorce, but they just come to me like, I saw what you went through, and it gave me permission to go after what I need to.
I love that. And I love this whole topic because I think it is important to be vulnerable. And I know I went through this phase where I thought I was being vulnerable because I was sharing the stories and I was letting people see my mistakes. But then I started realizing I was stopping at a certain level and not really going vulnerable. And it was because I hadn't figured out how to share the story without it becoming a drama about the negative. So now I have come to terms with that, and I'm way more open about that. But I know that you have specific things that you teach people because, okay, let me say it this way. Let's say the divorce was a perfect example. Someone's going through a divorce, then they can either bash on the other person. They can talk about how horrible it is. They can be a very, something that really brings people down. Or how do you take something? How do you know when it's time to start sharing the vulnerable? And when do you know, like, how do you know what to share? What do you teach your clients about that?
I think it all comes from a place of like, what's the real intention behind this? Is there ego involved? But even the ego of like, I want to people to grow from this and to be able for it to provide value in their life. But is it for them, or is it for you to feel like I provided value and it gave you some kind of validation? And at the same time, I don't want to say that that's wrong, because there isn't a way that can fuel you to do good things.
Right.
But is there any element of ego that is like affecting someone else in a negative way? Is it to make you look or feel in a certain way? Or is it just, here's something that I learned and I'd love to share this with you because I feel like you might be able to benefit from what I went through in experiencing this. And so it's always like a personal choice. I can never I can never tell someone when they're ready because they're only going to know for themselves. And it might take a while. It might take a while to process that. And when I talk about tiptoeing around the open wounds, it could be sharing pieces of it, but not telling the full thing. Like, I mean, of course, my healing from
Yeah.
my divorce, there was a time where I was like, I am in the most emotional pain I've ever been in, and I don't know how to define it, but I'm just going to share that. Hey guys, I'm going to be off social media for a while. I'm actually going to a therapy intensive for the weekend, and I got to process some stuff. I'm in emotional pain, and maybe I'll share it with you when I'm on the other side. Thanks so much for your love and support. And just sharing that, people were like, that's possible. You can take a time out. You can just share when you're in emotional pain. Like, yeah, that's actually, there's an element of strength to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. So why do you think, like, for example, you talked about people who say don't share while you're in it, share the
Mhm.
scars. In other words, wait till you're over it. Then when you've learned your lesson, come back and tell. And that is one great thing to do. So like help people navigate that, because you're saying, well, wait, let's break some rules and let's go a little bit closer to that wound. So how do you do that? Tell us, like, go a little bit deeper. Like, why do people say that? Why do people say, wait till it's a scar? Wait till you're over it.
I'm conflicted on that because we also throw rocks at like the Instagram filtered, like sugar coated life.
Right.
As entrepreneurs, haven't we evolved past fake it till you make it? Like, I don't want to be in a struggle in my life and be faking it and then after and be like, oh, guess what? I was actually really struggling there. Like, then isn't
Yeah.
that isn't that an element of like dishonesty? And it's not that you don't know anybody anything. You don't have to share this stuff. But it's also, I don't want people to fake it till they make it. I don't want them to put on an Instagram filter and pretend that everything's great. It's not that you have to lie, but you also don't have to avoid it and make up a fake story. So I would just share the things that you're learning. And you know what's so powerful about that? Even if you think about movies, like think about any movie you've ever watched. The whole point of the movie is to follow the protagonist, the hero, through a story. You watch them as they hit rock bottom and you watch them as they climb their way up. And at the end of the movie, when they've like won the race or gotten the girl or landed the dream job, you cheer louder when they win because you watched what they had to go through. If you watched Pursuit of Happiness, that movie with Will Smith,
Yeah.
and you just saw the end where he like gets a really great job with a great salary, you're like, cool, good for you. You're an average person. But when you see the part of him as a single dad, just scrounging to make ends meet for his kid, having to sleep in like a gas station bathroom and spending his last $10 to pay for his boss's cab fare, like that hurt, that breaks your heart. And then when he's crying at the end of the movie because he got the job, you're crying because you got to experience the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly true. So one of the things that I think is really powerful about what you do is you teach people how to share their story, which is interesting because what we need to do on our social media is we're teaching. One of the things that I'm always kind of pushing to people is, if you are not doing one of three things on social media, you should not be posting. It is inspiring, educating, and connecting.
Yes.
And so, and what I love about what you do is that you teach people that, because there are people out there teaching that it needs to be about, like, you need to awe everyone, shock and awe. They talk about that, but really awe is really about getting people to be jealous of you. And
Mhm.
you don't teach people to do that. You help people show their real selves. So however we define that, tell me why that's so important to you, because you don't go with all the trends of what everyone else is doing. Like, no, I am opinionated about what needs to be on there.
Yeah, I cringe when it comes to trends. Like my team is like, hey, Instagram reels and TikToks are really valuable. Do that thing where you like point at the words. And I'm like, why? What's the point? I don't just be, and it's not that it's a bad thing, but I'm just like, just because it's trendy doesn't mean that it's me. And I don't want to attract the wrong customer if I'm doing something that doesn't feel in alignment with me. And I'm sure anyone listening can think of the time where they had a customer that they didn't love, that wasn't in alignment with them. And how did you first attract that? Like, how do you bring someone into your world without you having something that, that brought them into that world? So I teach I actually have a formula. It's called the ELSA formula, also ELSA framework. ELSA is funny. It's, you think of the Snow Queen,
Yes.
but for these purposes, do not let it go. ELSA is ELSA is an acronym, and it was so funny when I was making this acronym. I was like, oh, if I mixed up those words, I could have also made the word sail, but ELSA, I think, is more memorable now. So the
Yeah.
acronym is Epiphany, Lesson, Story, Application. So before you create any piece of content, I want to think of what's the epiphany I want my audience to have from this. Because if you're just at the front of the classroom and like Charlie Brown teacher, like wah, 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 that's not going to be memorable. And if you're also trying to be like guru with the Lambos, like that's not relatable. They want to see that you're someone that they can trust because you've been in their shoes, like that your current reality, or sorry, their current reality was your before picture and their hopeful after picture is your current reality. Like they want to see that you could be in each other's shoes. So think of what's the epiphany, what's that, oh my God, that aha moment. Any memory that someone has created has to be connected to some sort of a tactical sense, like that memory, that sensory feeling of like that person gave me that connection. So what's that aha moment you want them to have? From that, what's the lesson that you can give them? What's the, if, and maybe it is step 1, step 2, step 3, but again, I don't want you to be Charlie Brown teacher and want like boring.
Yeah.
So how you teach that lesson is through a story. And you think about kids, bedtime, even my excuse still before going to bed is like, I need another story. I got to stay up until I get my story. And I spend way too much time on Instagram stories before bed. That's my problem. But those stories have a moral to the story. That's the lesson that sticks with you. And Russell Brunson talks about the best educators are the ones that spend more time on the story than on the strategies and tactics, because that's what makes it memorable for you. That's what creates the emotional connection, which is going to create the emotional investment. And then in the future, potentially the financial investment. So epiphany, lesson, story. And then A is for application, which is how then they can take away and implement this. What's an exercise they can do? Maybe what's a call to action for the next thing that they can take? What's the next step after they've gotten that epiphany to now implement what you've taught them?
I love that. Okay, those of you who are listening, that was really powerful. Take down those 4 steps, because if that's all you ever do in your content, you will get people a result every single time.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that is super powerful. Okay, you mentioned that, you talked about, your team wants you to point at the thing because that's what everybody's doing. And you said that might be cool, but it's not me.
Right.
When you're working with your clients, because we have a lot of people who are coaches who are teaching other people how to do things, right? When you're working with your clients, how do you figure, what are the steps you take to figure out who they are? Because you could just have everybody do cookie cutter. Well, this is what I do and it works. So then, of course, you don't do that because you are a rule breaker. So how do you figure out what really is them? If they are the person that would be perfect to go, hey, point at the thing, or how are you going to figure out what's best for them?
The great thing about the strategy is it's still the same, like same steps. It's, filming your videos, uploading them this way, and this is the call to action. But the marketing side of things, when it comes to the messaging and the calls to action of like, what are we actually leading them to in the value ladder? I call it the content machine and the cash flow system. The content machine is no one size fits all. That's your message. That's your history, your story inventory, what makes you you. And so, for example, things that work for you might not work for me because that's not my upbringing or my story or what made me who I am today. So when I first work with clients, if it's like a done for you service, if I were to get on a call with you, we would have like a really long heart to heart, in-depth conversation where like, I want you to tell me your whole life story, and I'm going to keep pulling at the threads to pull out those stories. And here's why you are the way that you are. And then we turn that into the content of like, this is what people are going to connect with. If we look at kind of the before and after picture analogy that I just gave, your before picture is your clients, your potential clients' current reality. So how do I paint that picture for them that you've been in their shoes? And so on these calls, I have had grown men crying on these calls because like we're getting to the root of why you are and how that turns you into who you are today. And that's what makes every story unique. And then just getting to know personalities. Like I have a client that, if you know anything about webinars, Russell Brunson talks about micro closes. And that's where you want the audience to nod along or say yes. And so you say things like, does that make sense? Is anyone getting this? Is this an aha moment for anyone? My client is like, I hate doing that. I feel like if someone asked me, does that make sense? They'd be condescending to me. And I'm like, okay, don't say that then. Like, and we just come
Right.
to a different thing. And that's what's great about it not being one size fits all, or else why would we follow any of the people that we follow? We want to be inspired and stimulated by unique perspectives.
Right. Right. I love that. And so one of the things that people will want to know, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's for two different reasons, because there are people who are listening who would be interested to work with you. But the second reason is because there are a lot of people out there who want to know how to systematize a successful business. And you have done that. So when on your value ladder, for example, you have some done for you, you have some lower end things that people can just buy, the recordings or the training, the course or whatever. What does that look like for you, for people who are wanting to know, okay, what's a good way to set up my business? And there are going to be people who are going, yeah, how can I learn from you? Like, what is it? How do you have it set up? Because some people may want high end, some people aren't ready for that.
Yeah, the way that I like to explain is like, if you have more time than money, then you can do it yourself. If you have more money than time, then that's where you want to invest to get the result faster and have it done for you,
Right.
so that you can work in your superpower, spend the time in your zone of genius. And so for any value ladder, including my own, we have where we're still giving you the same results, but it's a different time or financial investment. We have the do-it-yourself, the courses. We also have freebies, tons of freebies, the do-it-yourself course, a done with you coaching, a done for you service. Russell Brunson, again, I keep referencing him, he's great. Russell Brunson talks about people will pay for the same thing packaged in different ways. At Funnel Hacking Live, once he was on stage, he was holding up his book and he said, how many of you guys have this book? And like the whole audience raises their hand, of course.
They're like,
and, yeah, he's like, then why are you here? Which is kind of shocking to hear that. But he's like, everything that I know, the basis of everything I teach is in this book. So why would you leave your families, fly out here, pay for a hotel, pay for babysitters, whatever, to be sitting in this audience today? Because people will pay more for the same thing packaged in different ways because of the delivery system, because of how fast you're able to give them those results. And so for anyone, when they're thinking about their value ladder or thinking about how they want to invest their time or their money, a good value ladder is going to have the same results, but just packaged in different ways. So if anyone was asking, if that was part of your question of how they can work with me, we have the same result available as a course, a coaching program, or a done for you service.
Right. And so this might be a good time to tell them where to find you. We're going to put it in the links. We'll put it in the show notes, but tell me, like, where can people find you? What's the easiest way to look at what's available?
Yeah, marleyjaxx.com. And I'm actually, probably by the time this is launched, this podcast episode, we're going to have a whole 6-part video series that actually walks you through how to create the content machine and the cash flow system. And that's available at infinitecashflowblueprint.com.
Okay, that's the one I know. I knew about that one coming up because I'd been kind of watching. So yeah, it's exciting to see what you're doing. So tell me, you have, there are competitors out there. Why are you different than someone else? What is, because people say, oh, they act like if you're in a niche and a sub niche and sub niche, whatever, but there are still other people in your sub niche. Mm-hmm. What makes you different? Because I know this about successful people, that when you go do something that maybe someone else is already doing, there's something that you're going, look, there's a piece missing, or I do it differently, or I think it's important to add this piece or to do it this way. How is yours? Tell me about yours and how it's different than your competitors.
One of the things that I'm really proud of, and I'm sure especially for anyone that's in the marketing industry, you hear the term over deliver, but there's also a fine line between overwhelm and over deliver. And I feel like my way to over deliver is by helping people get the fastest result in the simplest way. That means like bite-sized content that you take and you implement, and that you see results along the way. But on top of that, that it's not just like, take it and go. Like, okay, here's the stuff, you have the system, see you never. With our programs, you have every opportunity to get on calls with one of our coaches. I do Q&As every week. In our coaching program, I'm on calls 3 times a week. That like, no person should be left behind as long as they use the resources and opportunities to be able to scale. And I don't know if this is just it's really important to me that I actually know the people in my programs, that I'm not like, yeah, you know, hundreds of people bought it, I don't know. Like, if you show up to the calls, I also have a really good memory. I know who you are, what your business is, and what we talked about last week. And that's really important to me because I've also been in coaching programs or hired services that like did not treat me the way I wanted to be treated. So I've learned what not to do so that I want to serve my clients the way that I would want to be. So I think that's what I am really proud of in our business compared to maybe other service providers.
I love that. And when you were just talking about how you remember what they talked about, and then you also mentioned, I have a good memory. What about the people out there who are going, oh, as soon as she says she has a good memory, I'm like, oh, that's not me. So how do I do that? What are some of the tactics? Because I'm telling you this, yes, there are people who have a good memory, but it also takes effort and energy to try to remember the important things. So what are the things you do that help you stay connected in that way so that you can remember and make your people feel like they matter?
I probably over communicate with my people, but I'm also cautious and I'm like, I do not want to overwhelm. But one of the things that we do inside of our team is, so we have daily huddles every day with our team. And in that, we look at our customer list. And every Friday, we do like a recap of where are our clients right now? What do they need next? So we actually look at every individual person's name so that we can at least have like a little, ding in our mind of like, okay, this person. And I actually just pulled up, I don't know if this is going to be a video at all, but I have just
Yeah,
a
it is.
pad of paper here where every single client in our coaching program, I have like a one-liner. And on Fridays, we send out a little, we call it like a weekly recap to each program where everyone who showed up to the calls, I have a little one-liner of like, here's what we did this week. Here's what we're celebrating with you. And so it's kind of fun to get those weekly recaps because you want to see your name on that list of like, here's what
Yeah.
I did. That's great. And then you also get to see the rest of your community and celebrate them too. And if you didn't show up to any of the calls, then we also tag you saying, and we missed you and hope to see you next week. Here's the link to the call.
That is perfect.
There's accountability, and there's also like, we see you. And I take the time to write down every single person, what they did and what we look forward to next week with them. So it's not just like, there's no way that someone can come into this program and be like, well, I didn't really do anything. Really? Because every Friday I've written what you've done.
And we're keeping track of you.
Yes.
And that's an accountability thing too. So here you are. I mean, you are young, and I'm going to ask you a question that is maybe a little bit weird, but as a female and as someone who is very beautiful, are there precautions you need to take or things that you need to be careful of when you're in certain situations? Because, and now you're single, but in our world today, sometimes people don't care about that. But have you come across situations where you're like, I can tell with this person, I need to really make sure the boundaries are real clear? So tell me how you handle that.
Yeah, that's a funny question. Definitely after I announced my divorce, there was some interesting people that came out of the woodwork, and also very like a lot of assumptions made about, I don't even know, just like, okay, so you'll be ready to date in 3 months. I'll follow up with you then. I'm like, excuse me? What?
You're like, that just identified you as someone that is actually not on that list.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, weird. So it's been definitely a learning experience there. I think my mom raised me to be a little overly cautious, which I appreciate. That I generally, and also going through relationships as an entrepreneur too, it's like I need to bring people into my corner that have the same growth mindset as me. And anyone that doesn't, it doesn't mean that they're wrong or they're bad, but maybe you love them from a distance, or you recognize that the relationship is different. So I think I used to very much care about having lots of relationships. I'm definitely an extrovert. I'm fueled by people. But now what's more important to me is having like a small, close circle, private circle, inner circle of really close but private friendships. And so that's how I've kind of evolved this year of like, I want to protect my time, my mental health, my growth, and that, sometimes relationships end that way. I actually think this might answer your question really well. As I was going through, of course, a lot of healing and growth this year, as I was growing, some relationships fell away. And I took that so personally, was so hurt by that, of like, people that were my best friends turned on me, and I was heartbroken. And how could this happen? And first of all, it was like, what did I do wrong? But in therapy, realized that like, it wasn't that I did anything wrong. It's that my growth landed on their wounds. And that if I want to be surrounded by people that are also willing to grow, that they're willing to look at their baggage and do anything it takes to grow through that, then sometimes your limiting vision is going to serve other people. And when you break through that, it can threaten them. And so I've had to just be very protective of that and grow through that, and know that if someone decides to fall away from my life, then it doesn't mean that they're bad, but it's just like, thank you, and I'll love you from a distance.
Okay, I love where you went with that. And that's honestly really beautiful, beautiful. I think a lot of people need to hear that. And I want to take that a step deeper and ask you this, because I'll preface it by saying this: a lot of people talk about, successful people especially, will talk about how, oh, you can't be more successful until you grow more. Your success level is limited by how much you grow. But for people who haven't been through that as much, it sounds like a cliche, and it can sound, they feel like, oh, everybody says that, but we know it's absolutely true. So how does your growth that you were just talking about correlate with your business success, and how do those intersect?
There's two quotes that come to mind. Stephen Larsen says, my business will only grow to the level that I do. Alex Charfen says, if you don't have the business that you want, it's because you haven't become the person who can run it yet. And so there's like before and after Marley. There's Marley that was very codependent on relationships, and that my happiness and self-worth was connected to the people I was in a relationship with, the amount of money I had, how successful I looked on the outside, but then still always hit this wall or this ceiling of like, I can't break through that. How come I can never like jump that hurdle? Well, it's because that was the self-limiting belief that was that blockage. And then as I grew, and of course it's painful, like that it is work. But it is the most important and valuable and meaningful work that you can do. And finding where real self-worth comes from, where real fulfillment comes from. And I think as entrepreneurs, it's not a bad thing that we probably started our businesses at some point from a place of, I got to prove myself, whether to your parents or to the world or to that teacher that told you that you couldn't do it. And to a point, you're like, I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to show everyone like what I'm made of. But then you get to a point where you're like, is there more than this? Or how can I grow past this? Or, maybe you get to a level of success and you're like, fame and fortune isn't everything. And that's where you start to realize like, well, wait, what do I really want? And to be able to see the other side of that is to go within, and the only way out is through.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I love it. You are very eloquent as you speak, the way that you teach. So tell me this, because you're learning all this stuff, you're growing, you're talking about how you have these regular meetings with your employees and all of these things that you've grown into. So how did you learn how to be a CEO? Because you have to be a CEO, and a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, nobody trained them to do this. Nobody's helping you know step by step how to be a CEO. So how did you grow into that?
Alex Charfen sure kicked my butt into that. I I used to think like, I'm the only person that can do this. I'm a snowflake unicorn. I have to do everything myself. And Alex Charfen said to me, Marley, you're not that special, which is both upsetting, but also reassuring and freeing to be like, oh, hang on. Yeah, there's actually other people that can like edit videos and respond to emails and do my taxes. Like, of course there are. And it's just about having the systems in place to be able to, duplicate yourself. And not that you can actually clone yourself, but what if you can actually transfer knowledge and transfer authority to people and give people the trust and the milestones, the targets to hit, the measurements of how you actually measure their success. And Alex Charfen talks about it as like lateral accountability instead of like, did you do that? Great. Okay. Did you do that next? Okay, great. Like, it's not, I don't want to be a micromanager. I want to be free to Alex. Alex Charfen also calls it transformational leadership instead of transactional management. And I had to fail to figure that out. I actually I was early 2019 that I was paying people too much because I felt like I needed them. I needed them to feel secure in myself. I didn't want to make decisions myself. So I paid people more than I could afford, thinking they'll be able to do this for me. And what I learned from that is that I needed to learn how to trust myself and learn and implement instead of just hope that someone else would figure it out for me. And that got me to a place where I almost went bankrupt. And I had to learn the hard way of, you know what, you know the answers. You just have to fail forward. And even if you do make mistakes, you grow from them. And to be aware of your numbers, to have the accountability on your team, but also the trust to give people the freedom to create.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when I was first starting my business at the beginning, I would surround myself with people. I knew what my vision was, and I'm very driven. And so I would surround myself with people that would help me. And I thought I was doing such a good job because I'm delegating, and I'm not, not trying to take it all on. But I realized after a while that what I was doing was I was finding people that I could guide them so that I could help them with so I could help them help me with my vision. And it took a little while. It wasn't till later that I started learning, no. Surround yourself with people who are way better at that than you,
Yes.
so that you don't have to be the one taking care of that. So how do you decide when you're ready to hire someone for a position, or if you're the one who needs to do it? You talked about if you have more time or if you have more money.
That's the best question. I look at, where am I actually spending my time? Like every single day, I'll write down, and not that I do this every day, but if I'm in a period where I'm like, I need help, if you need more time, you need more team. Like, you can't buy time, but you can buy someone else's time. I can outsource easily, but what do you outsource and what do you keep on your plate? So I have this, it's called the time study. Alex Charfen also teaches it. And I have a copy of what it looks like here. Just like every single 15-minute increment of my day, I will write down, what did I do in that time slot? And I'll write down everything, even if I took a break, or if I was responding to an email, or if I was on a call or on a podcast or anything. And at the end of the day, I'll categorize that by what was tactical, what was strategic, what was family time, what was self-care, because you need a balance of that. And I'll look at that and go, well, what's imbalanced? And what from that can become a job description for someone else? What from that is actually generating revenue? What from that is actually in my superpower, or what makes me feel drained? And I just turn that into a job description, because I want to be able to spend my time in the strategic things, in my zone of genius, and still have leftover time to give my friends and family and myself.
I love that you added the word drained, because I think one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make is they might be really, really good at something that drains them.
Yep.
You might have things that you are a genius at, and there might be 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. You might be good at a lot of things, but the ones that drain you, that's not the ones that you want to spend your time on. Yeah. And so when you work with your clients, you're helping them do videos, but I know for me, with my clients, doesn't matter what we're working on. We might be working on scaling their profits, but we end up spending 80% of the time on their beliefs and limiting beliefs and attitudes of scarcity or abundance, or psychology type things. Do you find that the same?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I have been saying is, like, sure, people come to me for video marketing and scaling their business and creating these cash flow systems. But like, what I'm really doing is I'm helping to build the people that build the businesses that change the world. And a lot of times that's people coming to me with their limiting mindsets, like you said, or they need help to build a team. They need to be able to let go of that, the trust or the micromanaging, so that they can actually scale, so they can actually discover their superpower. So everything you said, I think any kind of coach, consultant, service provider, you're going to find that so much. You're going to give people what they want, but then really give them what they need.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to go off track for a minute.
Yes.
And I think that'll be fun. But before we go over that, because I got all excited about this, but I realized I have one more question before we kind of go off course from this. So when you were starting your company, what helped you push through the obstacles? Because it's hard. Now, when you get really successful and you're making a lot of money, I know that on the hard days, sometimes the hard days, it's not necessarily that you don't have them, but when you do, sometimes it's easy to go, well, I guess this is why I get paid this much money because I've got to take care of this. But really and truly, you have hard things at the beginning before you're making a lot. So what helped you push through all of that?
I had a mentor that that said something to me when I was in a rough place. It was at the time when I was like, do I fire these people? But I need them. But I don't have enough money to pay them. What do I do? It was like triage. Like we had to stop the bleed. But one of the things he said when I was so frustrated and like feeling like a failure, he's like, Marley, you signed up for this. Like you as an entrepreneur, you are wired differently. You have signed up for a lifestyle of constant transition. As entrepreneurs, we're not like racing to the finish line to then coast. We are racing to a milestone to hopefully celebrate that. Some people just like, move the milestone to the side and keep going, celebrate your wins. But we reach the top of the mountain and then there's the next one. And then there's the next one. Like we just keep pushing the target further. So anytime that I've ever been in a crunch or a bind or a struggle, I just had to remind myself, this is what I signed up for. And what's the alternative? Quitting? How long would that last? I've actually played out those scenarios. Let's say we quit. Do I go back to a 9-to-5? They'll fire me. I'm not a good employee. I will try to run that place. Or I'll be like, I can't believe you want me to stay here till 5 o'clock. I wouldn't be. The other
alternative, like I finished my work in 2 hours. So I really,
yeah. So pay me for the full day and then I would like probably still start up a side business or something. Let's say the alternative is like you have a money cushion, you don't have to go back to another job. I would probably, I don't know, catch up on Grey's Anatomy or whatever popular show. And with that rest period, I would probably start to get really creative because when we have the time to just create some space and rest, that's when the creative ideas are going to come to the surface. So it's probably a much needed vacation, but I would be starting a business again within probably a couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's no way you wouldn't. I mean, you would absolutely go. Okay, so something that people are going to want to know is you've been working with some really big names. How did you get in the door there? How did that come about? And how can people who haven't had that experience yet, how can they kind of open that door with people who seem out of reach?
That's the coolest thing is that you never know who's watching. And sure, there's the strategies like Dream 100 and reaching out to people so that you can, schmooze them and try to sell them into something. But sometimes the best opportunities just come from you just authentically showing up and a referral dropping into your inbox. So some of my biggest opportunities, Daymond John from Shark Tank, that was someone that had been following me on social media that had a connection to Daymond John that was like, hey, I'm working on a funnel for them and they need help with this. Would you be interested? And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, sure. Are you the Daymond John? And then they just got on a call with me. And then next thing I know, they're flying me out to New York and I was with them for a day consulting with them. LinkedIn, they hired me. I'm a LinkedIn author and I filmed 2 courses at their studios in California. They found me through a video that I posted on YouTube in 2016. And it's funny, they emailed me and I thought it was one of those like LinkedIn requests,
Yeah.
I ignored the email at first.
You didn't like swipe.
Totally ignored it. And because I just thought it was one of those emails. And then they emailed me, thankfully, a couple weeks later, like, hey, legit LinkedIn here. We'd like to fly you out and hire you. Are you interested? Oh, yeah. But like they found me or they were referred to me by just the consistency in the content that I was providing. And I think also with, even if you are going to use like Dream 100 or any kind of cold outreach strategies, the first thing people are going to look to is your content to see, are they legit? Does she know what she's talking about? What kind of other people is she providing results for? So I think that's step one is like creating that foundation, cleaning house and showing the world what you have so that, the referrals or the outreach is going to, show your credibility.
Yeah. And testimonials are a big thing. So what's your process for acquiring testimonials? Do you go right out and ask them? Do you give them something for free if they send you one? How does that work for you?
A little bit of both. So definitely any clients that we have in our coaching programs or in our courses or done for you services, we ask for them, especially like, let's say we just finished a filming day. Hey, while you're here, would you mind sharing a few words? What did you think about filming today? What do you think about, like, while they're right in it, just keep the momentum going. We also have systems right within our programs that people don't even realize they're giving testimonials. That, you know, with the Friday recap emails of like, what was your big win this week? If we missed it in this post, share it. And every week they're posting their big wins. And we give them a bit of a format to follow, like how much money did you make? Or, you know, we want to actually get those tangible wins. We also have in even our low ticket offers, we have a 21-day challenge where every day they have an activity, an exercise to implement, and then they have they're earning a badge to say that they've completed it. And under the badge, it's share your takeaway. So every single day for 21 days, we're getting tons of testimonials. And then to complete the challenge, you have to share your transformation story through a video. And that makes you eligible for the prizes at the end. So that's a way that people are making testimonial videos. So we have tons of Google Drive folders just full of testimonials that it's endless.
Yeah, I did your VIP course. It was awesome. And I had forgotten. I want to have you tell them what VIP is. I love it. I love it. I want to steal it. It's awesome.
Thank you. It stands for Video Impact Profit.
So yeah, that's awesome. And honestly, because that moved me, that helped me have epiphany. And I loved your VIP. And I thought, I wonder if I could do value, impact, purpose or something, because I love it. But I want to, you know, let you.
Or for you, maybe value, income, purpose, because purpose is already kind of impact.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, okay, wait, that's good. Yeah, value, income, purpose. That's great. Yeah. But not as good as yours. It's got a ring, you know what I mean? And that one rings. It's awesome.
Good. It took some time. Value, video, the V, it took me a while to find that one. I don't know why. At first I was trying to come up with, I think the word we had for a while was veracity. And I was like, I had to Google that to find out what that meant.
That's funny. Okay. So you've been so gracious with your time, and I know that you're going to need to go, but I have to ask you this question because I know that you love Hamilton.
Oh, I do. It's so funny to know that.
So, and you know, and watching with you, connecting with you online.
My friend, this is kind of broken because it was in my bag. My friend for my birthday made me these custom Hamilton cookies. This one says talk less, smile more. Anyway.
So tell us, why do you love Hamilton so much? Because you were watching it like every day or something.
That's funny that you caught that. I love anything that's a performance. I love movies, but I more importantly love the how it became the story that it is. So Lin-Manuel Miranda, I study him. I study Walt Disney. I study like Pixar, the Steve Jobs, the people behind these creations. And I just I'm so fascinated thinking, how does Lin-Manuel Miranda's brain work that way to create such an incredible, legendary masterpiece? Like, that is his legacy among many others. Like, he's,
right.
You know, he's created other Broadway shows. The music for Moana, he's going to be also creating the music for the upcoming live action Little Mermaid. And so I love studying, how do people create these performances? How are they creative? And so watching the play and hearing the lyrics and just thinking, like, the person who created that has all the same resources that we do. They are a human. They have 24 hours in the day. How do I be like that? How do I take inspiration? Like, so Lin-Manuel Miranda, I don't know if you know this, he was on his honeymoon and he just happened to pick up a biography or a biography book of Hamilton, just some light reading on his honeymoon. Like, why? And then he just thought, I wonder if anyone's ever made a hip hop version of the story of the founding fathers. That'd be pretty badass. No one's made, he Googles it. No one has made that. I guess I will. And it took him 7 years to write that. And look at how many people it has touched all across the world, and the history that people now learn, and kids that are fascinated by history because of how he's been able to take this story, this history, and turn it into modern pop culture, things that are so catchy in your head. It's just, I'm fascinated by the behind the scenes of how things
That's
are created.
fun. That was one. Whenever you talked about Hamilton, your eyes would light up. It just became so fun. You sucked me right in. So
So funny.
okay. Well, any last thoughts for our budding entrepreneurs, our advanced entrepreneurs? Tell me what would you share with them if you just have, you know, this last little bit of time? What do you think is important for them to know?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I feel like you asked such great questions, and it was such a fun conversation to really help lead into like anything that I would want to talk about. And I loved when we talked about, you know, the kind of clients that we work with and what we end up doing for them. And with my clients, I want to help them to build a content machine and a cash flow system that brings them in infinite cash flow. But it's also about being the entrepreneur that you are meant to be, and attracting the right community of true believers, of building your movement, of creating this future-based cause that you get to lead that vision. And by being authentic, by being vulnerable, by sharing the scars, maybe tiptoeing around the open, and just showing up consistently. That's what's gonna. I mean, the fact that you remembered that I talked about Hamilton on my Instagram story, like that's so funny and that's relatable. It's something that a lot of people love. And being able to share the good things, the bad things, not necessarily being Instagram filtered, just being you.
Yes. And I think that's so important. You made me think of one last thing. I know that for a while it became this thing. You talk about the Instagram filters to make it look more perfect than it really is. Now I see a pendulum swinging where now people are trying to be so vulnerable that they're faking hard things. And so, for example, I have a friend who works for an influencer and she has a huge following. And so the assistant worked with the kids to make cookies and made a mess in the kitchen. And then they took pictures of the kitchen to show the mess to make it look fun, like we're doing all this stuff. But it made it appear that she's the one who is spending time with her kids. And so I love how you talked about authenticity, because we did talk about that a lot today. So remember, you guys, as you are moving forward, whatever direction you're trying to go, that make sure you really are real. Don't make it look worse than it is. Don't make it look better than it is. Life will give you the ups and downs, and life bursts the bubbles. You can share that, and life creates amazing vistas. You can share that too. And I just want to leave that with you and let you know that, Marley, I admire you very much. I really am honored that you came on here, that you took the time to do this. And really, that was super fun. And I think people are going to not only listen to this, they're going to go back and review. They're like, wait, what did she say about this? So thank you for that. You are amazing. I appreciate it.
This was the highlight of my day. And when I heard your team come on the podcast, I was like, yes, when? Right now, I'll clear my day.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm sure that we'll be working together in the future. I love what you're doing, and that you're the type of people I love to work with. So you keep breaking the rules.
I will.
All right. You're awesome.